There's a lot of people that look at Blue Angels as the pinnacle of American patriotism and exceptionalism. You're putting that suit on. What was that like in that moment to realize, wow, there's going to be little kids like me looking up at you and saying, this is the closest thing to Clark Kent I'm going to get?
It was very surreal, and especially the first time you put the suit on, you show up in Pensacola, and it still never hits. And we kind of talk about in the Blue Angels all the time, imposter syndrome. Even the guys that are there, I don't think I'm supposed to be here. And then you watch the Blues fly, and you're already picked for the team. You're like, I can't do that, and I'm not going to be able to do that. Up until the last day I flew there were still times you'd walk in, and you'd see the Blue Angel crest on the hangar, like, oh, am I in the wrong place? Oh, no, I'm going to the right spot. Surreal is the best way to describe the feeling.
Yeah, you're Luke Skywalker on Earth. No big deal. No pressure whatsoever. Don't mess up. Welcome to Make the Donuts. I'm your host, Erik Sabiston. I'm a best-selling author, a dual-rated airline pilot, and a career counselor. I've helped over 8,000 people make the jump to the airlines. Now, I'm interviewing successful people from a variety of professions around the world. It's time to learn their secrets for success. Make the Donuts starts now. When I was a kid, I used to ride down to Oceana Naval Air Station and sit at the edge of the flight line and wait for these larger-than-life characters to pop up and maybe even sign an autograph for me, and they were known as the Blue Angels. If you haven't seen them before, you're missing out. This is the #1 flight demonstration team in the world, hands down, the best of the best, better than Top Gun. These are the guys, and I'm very, very thankful to have Cary Rickoff today, call sign Chewie, on the show. It's great to have you, Chewie.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here. Appreciate you having me on.
So if you haven't checked it out, there's a wonderful movie right now called The Blue Angels, a documentary. You can even see it on IMAX. I think at the time you were the #5 guy, right?
Correct. Yeah, lead solo. I was 5 at the time.
That's awesome. So did you always want to be a Blue Angel? Did you always know that this was going to be your path?
I definitely didn't know it. I always liked them, kind of the same as you going to Oceana. My dad was born and raised in Pensacola, so we grew up going out to Pensacola, and you'd always see him flying overhead. Or I think I went to the Naval Aviation Museum. Probably I averaged by one time per trip down there. So I was just always into aviation, and I kind of halfway not joke that probably saw Top Gun one too many times, and just kind of all over from there.
In school, when you were young, there's a lot of people be watching the show trying to figure out how to do what you did. What were your thoughts during junior high school, high school? Were you aiming for this or what?
Wasn't aiming for it. So I started probably most like your listeners. My uncle is just a civilian aviation guy and always had been big into planes and all that kind of stuff. Never did any military stuff. So I grew up around him seeing it and kind of seeing the GA, general aviation side of things. And, around middle school, my parents started to see that, hey, he's got an actual interest in aviation. Let's see if he likes flying. So they bought me one of those 1-hour intro to flight lessons. I think on my 13th or 14th birthday, something like that. Went up, had a blast, and was lucky enough to start doing private pilot training in high school. Got my private after that, and that's when I kind of realized, like, oh, this aviation thing is actually a viable job in the future. And kind of from there, learned about the military. We don't have family in the military other than being in Pensacola. That was just kind of my only introduction to it. Learned about, the college opportunities in ROTC and just kind of let the ball roll in there. So yeah, it was never this is my 10-year plan and I'm going to do all this. And it just everything kind of rolled along, and it all seemed to work out. So then, yeah, college, got the aviation spot, did the Navy stuff for a while, and never ever thought I'd be a Blue Angel. But that was definitely not in the cards in high school, but it was nice.
That's awesome. So let's go back to high school. You obviously had to get good grades. You went to Duke, right?
Correct.
Okay. Yep. What was your interest academically? What were you thinking about majoring in?
I was always a math science guy. So always liked chemistry, physics, math, all that stuff. I was never your big history, literature kind of guy. Just never really gelled with me. But my original plan going into college was do a year of the ROTC, because you get a kind of a free year to see if you like it. And I was just going to do that. I planned to just kind of drop it and do pre-med, go be a doctor of some sort and kind of do that route. But really enjoyed the Navy, figured out, the career was great. So stuck with it, kept the pre-med major did a biological anthropology in college. So nothing I ever used in my day-to-day life, but I just kind of enjoyed the classes, and that's how I kind of made it through.
Well, there's actually a Sabiston legacy there at Duke.
Oh, yeah.
David Costin Sabiston, big time heart surgeon guy. So I would have been a doctor too. It's just the science and math that I had a problem with. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
but other than that, so you were heavy in the, the math and science. So would you recommend to a young person that that's probably a good base knowledge level for them to be in those kinds of disciplines?
For sure. I don't really have anything to compare it to because I'm not good at history and literature, but having kind of that math analytical problem solving is not the right word, but kind of be able to work through those mathematical problems or science type problems. I do see a little bit of parallels of that in aviation, just kind of your day-to-day quick calculations, that stuff. Not to say that's the hardest of all the math and sciences, but it seems to work for me, at least the way my brain works. So it's definitely a good base to have.
Okay. So you get to Duke. How did you hear about ROTC? Was it something you had thought about prior to going to Duke, or did someone come up to you and tell you about it?
So I found out about it in high school, again, through that uncle who's the general aviation guy. And, I looked at the Naval Academy because I knew that's how I thought you had to do it. In my mind, it was you either have to enlist and become an officer or go to the Naval Academy. I had no idea about the ROTC until high school, and then just found out about the program, did a bunch of research, and then applied for the scholarship, and was lucky enough to get picked up for the scholarship, and then, yeah, off to the races.
So when you were in college, you're taking classes, you're doing the ROTC thing. You didn't really have a guarantee that you were going to be a pilot, though, right?
Correct. You don't. You have a guarantee of a job. That's the only thing they guarantee. So, they pay for 4 years if you're on the 4-year scholarship, and you owe 4 years on the backside. So 4 years for that would be surface warfare, submarine, marine contract, something like that. But they have the option of the aviation. Obviously you apply for that, and that incurs a little bit more of a commitment. But yeah, so I didn't know until senior year that you actually got the aviation side. Yeah, so they hold you on for a little bit.
That's a long wait.
Yeah.
Wow. And so what would you have been happy to do as your backup had aviation not worked out?
I think my second option, I put pilot first, NFO second, so the backseater in a plane. And then I think third, I did submarines just 'cause I thought it'd be interesting for a couple of years. But
yeah.
And
okay, cool.
Luckily, we didn't get that far, so I don't have to worry about being under the sea.
So it's I don't know what the process is to find out what you're going to branch in the Navy. Tell me a little bit about what that was like.
Yeah, so they kind of take your grades, your physical fitness scores. I think it's largely heavily weighted with grades, and then they kind of break down, in that year, how many pilots do they need nationally, and a certain percentage go to the academy, a certain percentage go to ROTC, and a certain percentage go to the OCS, the officer candidate school guys. And they just kind of, I think they rack and stack and branch them all out. And so it's kind of nerve-wracking waiting, but yeah, you apply and wait to hear back.
So as far as those slots, do they assign more slots to the academy, more to RTC, OCS? How does that break down?
I'm not entirely sure. I've heard it's close to 50-50. I think when I was at least in college, I think about half went to the academy, and then I think half went to OCS and ROTC. But there's obviously a lot more ROTC guys than OCS guys, so I think, you don't quote me on this, but yeah, I think ROTC gets a little bit less than half.
Well, now you've worked as an instructor at Pensacola, so you've seen both sides of the coin. Tell us, for those who are listening or watching, tell us a little bit about what it's like when you get down there.
It's changed a lot, but it's kind of nerve wracking. It's a weird mix of you're excited to go, but you're also nervous because you got to make it through. And it kind of depends on the year. Sometimes there's a lot of aviators down there, and you're sitting there waiting for a couple months before you start. And sometimes they've cleared out the backlog, and you get down there and you go right away. I was fortunate or unfortunate, however you want to look at it. When I showed up, there was a long wait, so we had a couple months to hang around, get the manuals, and look things over, and kind of ease our way into it. But then once you start going, it's a sprint, and so you got to be ready to go.
When you started, were you in the T-34?
I was one of the last classes in the T-34. So when I was going through, they were switching over to the T-6. I think there was one squadron at Whiting that had it, and then we were kind of the next to transition, but I made it through before they did. So it was cool to get to fly that thing.
Now, prior to flying, you do API? Mm-hmm. Is that what it's called?
They call it knife now, but it's the same idea. Yeah, it's some ground school, like I think 6 weeks or 4 weeks of academics, 2 or 3 weeks of, like water survival, land survival, that kind of stuff. Yeah, we're in the Navy, so you got to swim a mile in a flight suit, all that kind fun stuff. But yeah, it's your first intro to Navy aviation.
Okay, so those first few weeks, does that weighted in your final grade when you select?
Correct. So there's
Okay.
not much selection. So when you start, all your grades are calculated, but coming out of API, you just select which base you're going to go to, because you either go to Whiting for T6s or Corpus Christi for T6s, and that's your
Okay.
primary flight training. After you fly the T6, or in my case, the T-34, that's when you select rotors, jets, or big wing P3.
Okay. Well, everybody wants to know how to be a fighter pilot, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
you. So they're all going to ask, how, if I make it that far and I'm in training, how do I get jets? I mean, what can I do during that initial period of, I don't know, what, 6, 9 months of flight training to really rise to the top?
Well, the short answer is be first in your class. The Navy, the Navy is not one for, they're not one for guaranteeing anything, so they'll never guarantee a slot. Um, Historically speaking, the top person in that graduating class gets their first choice. Everything else kind of boils down to needs of the Navy. So unfortunately, a lot of naval aviation is luck, what's available that week. But the longer answer is just try your best. Be prepared for every flight. I always tell my students now, as an instructor, and back when I was an instructor in Kingsville, there's two things that you can control going into a flight, and that's your own attitude and preparation. Everything else is kind of you have to adapt to. So come to the brief ready, come to the brief with a good attitude, be ready to learn, and that's kind of the best recipe for success.
Man, that is be number one. I love it.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's a tough one, but if you can do it, I recommend it.
Now, let's just say you had a guy who was, I don't know, an avionics technician and a Seahawk, and he really wanted helos, or maybe something commensurate in the F-18 community. Could he later swap with somebody who has a similar inclination? Could two naval aviators swap, student naval aviators?
There's some kind of swapping around, but and really they list your preferences. So the number one person doesn't have to go jets. You still get to rack and stack what you want. So you can say, hey, my number one choice is helicopters. So that may be, hey, the guy coming out of his class is first in his class and he wants helicopters. He goes helicopters. And maybe the number two guy or number three guy wanted jets, but none of the guys above him did. And you see that all the time too. It's a lot of guys' personal preference. Some want the big wing, some want the rotary stuff. It's all personality dependent, lifestyle dependent. It's actually surprising. Going through aviation now, a lot of guys don't want jets. So it blows my mind too, because we'll ask the students all the time, like, hey, what do you want to fly? Like, oh, they want to fly helicopters or E2C2, like all great options. But when we went through, everyone wanted jets, and so it's just kind of how things change. Everyone kind of finds their own path.
I, as an instructor myself at Fort Rucker, I remember there were certain students I could see that just had it. I know it's about being prepared, but is there any insight you can give us into what it takes to be number one besides just being prepared?
Prepared is part of it, but kind of to step preparation even further, you need to be prepared for future flights, right? So being prepared for today is great, and that's kind of expected, but I would also say you need to be prepared for tomorrow, because a lot of the times, these flights come back to back to back, day after day after day, or sometimes 2 or 3 times a day. You may have 2 flights in a day, or sim and a flight. So always kind of be looking ahead to what's next, and that helps out, because just because you got 1 flight today, you may be on for 2 simulators tomorrow that are in a different area, right? You may be doing instruments now or aerobatics now, and then tomorrow you're in 2 instrument flights or 2 instrument sims. So they even kind of jump around in how the training goes. So it's very important to look beyond just today and the preparation for that one.
If a young person is waiting for a class date, is there anything they could study, any books or any online videos that you think would help them to understand the fundamentals of flight or physiology, or anything that it could get ahead of the game with?
That's a great question. We didn't really have the online videos when I was going through. I'm sure now there's someone that kind of records the pre-flights or that kind of stuff. We always kind of temper that in the Navy of, live by the gouge, you die by the gouge. So it could be great info, or it could be not so great info. So, but yeah, if you're waiting around an API or knife as they call it now, look over the manuals for those classes. That'll get you a good head start. In those early stages, the ground school stages, I wouldn't look too much into primary. That may be getting a little bit of the cart, a little bit ahead of the horse, but yeah, definitely look whatever you have books for. Take a look at those, and the best we always get is talk to the people ahead of you. The Navy is very much a team
Right.
sport. The Navy wants to graduate everyone, and they want everyone to succeed, so they're not playing any secrets. You have friends ahead of you who are going to help you, and that's rely on your teammates, your squadron mates is the best.
All right. Now you get to Pensacola, you get through the training, you wing while you're there, right?
The backseaters do. We go on to we wing out of our intermediate or advanced stage. So for the jet guys, we'll wing in Meridian, Mississippi, or Kingsville, Texas.
Okay, on the T-45, right?
T-45, correct.
Okay.
Mhm.
And so you get over the T-45. I mean, this is a completely different type of flying, I guess, in some respects. So
Mhm.
what's the transition like for that? I mean, I'm sure it's a lot simulator to start with.
It is. You start everything we do. We start in the sims, and the biggest thing is the speed. So if you can imagine, a T-34 is, it's a turboprop. It's still a prop airplane, and now you're jumping in a jet that will go 400 knots and climbs much quicker than the T-34 does. So that's the biggest thing, is kind of learning to get back ahead of the plane. Like you spent, like you said, 6 months learning to fly this propeller plane, and you thought you were the master of this propeller plane. Now you get in a jet and you're blowing through altitudes or over speeding gear, and everything happens very, very quickly. So that's kind of leads to the previous point of thinking ahead, not only of your preparation but the jet. And once you can kind of master that, that's where the learning starts to pick up.
Would student naval aviators go to the boat in the T-6 these days?
No, so they're actually taking that back. So up until about a year ago, that would be your winging, your graduation flight would be going to the boat. You do your is it 3 touch and goes, 10 traps, I think is what you do, or 4 touch and goes, 10 traps. And after that, you qualify the boat, you get your wings. Now with some of the advancements in the Super Hornet and the F-35, they are removing that from undergraduate flight training. So now students, at least for the jet, are no longer on the boat. They're just doing it for the first time in the F-18 or the F-35.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy. So whoa. You're trying to take on this, iconic jet, this amazing piece of machinery, and you're trying to deal with the boat for the first time. That's a lot.
I agree. It seems to be working so far, but yeah, it's for now. I'm one of the old timers. It seems kind of odd that was kind of that was a big confidence booster. It was definitely a lot of work, and it was scary, but it was a big confidence booster when you did that. And the T-45, you're like, oh, I can actually do this and land on the boat. But like I said, they're doing it because some of the landing mode of the F-18 now is advanced pretty far from what I used to do, and so it's a lot easier to land the ship or the plane aboard the ship with a little bit
Really?
more consistency. Mm-hmm.
So is it like a Cat 1 approach or something like that?
Somewhat. So it's still not coupled up like a Cat 1 approach, but they've reworked all the flight controls. It's called Magic Carpet. It's a long acronym that I can never remember the name of, but it basically makes the Super Hornet wing act entirely different in a landing mode versus flying mode. So it's instead of historically speaking, if you're landing a plane, right, you push forward, elevators move, nose goes down, you go down. Now they basically rewire the whole thing. So what's an approach mode? Your stick inputs control the leading edge flaps and the trailing edge flaps, and so they'll basically dig in or come up a little bit. So it's just it's all lift. So the stick basically controls lift, not necessarily your stabs. It's kind of a self-contained approach, is not a great word, but yeah, it basically intercepts a 3-degree glide slope. And so if you go hands off the jet, it's going to just hold 3 degrees or 3.5 degrees, whatever you set in the plane, until you move it and manipulate it, either reduce it or increase it.
Hey everybody, I want to take a quick second to thank my friends at Phantom Products for believing in Make the Donuts, sponsoring this first season. They're powering us, and on top of that, they've powered some amazing lighting applications. Since 1943, they've been providing lighting to the military. They used to light the shipping lanes for military transports during World War II. They provided lights to the New York Police Department, the New York Fire Department, and first responders all over this country. They're family-owned, they're American-made. When I was in Afghanistan and Iraq, I was using this Phantom TLS, and it's an awesome light. It's got covert secure white, it's got cyan, it's got infrared, it's got these built-in flash flash patterns if you need it. In a roundabout way, without this light, there's some people in this world that probably wouldn't be here. So I want to thank Phantom Products again for believing in the show, for sponsoring us, and for the great stuff you guys make. Check out the website. We'll drop it down in the show notes. And again, Phantom Products, thanks for helping us make the donuts.
Wow. I mean, imagine landing on a carrier at night. I mean, that would take some of the stress off, I assume.
It does. I never got to do it to the ship. I flew it to the land a couple of times. It was kind of coming online as I was leaving. But yeah, talking to friends of mine who do it now, they're like, yeah, man, we used to be terrified of night traps, and now they're, for lack of a better term, easy. They've it's really improved the game.
Wow, that is amazing. I didn't know that. That's incredible technology. All right, so you get to the RAG, or I'm sorry, the FRS, and you see this freaking Super Hornet right in front of you for the first time. Are there dual controls in the Super Hornet for pilot and vaccine?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the RAG has a couple, they call them FTs, so they're configured to have a stick in the front and the back. And if your first couple flights, there will be an instructor back there, but again, the Navy moves at a very quick pace. So after your first couple flights, you could be flying with a pilot with no controls, or you could be flying with an NFO or a WIZO with no controls, and you got it.
How does an NFO become an instructor in a jet like that when they're not, traditionally pilots for most of the time?
Correct. Right. Yeah, but the RAG is teaching, it's a little bit of pilot skills, but it's kind of assumed that you've learned the pilot skills in the T-45 and advanced flight training. Now you start kind of blending in the tactics. So now in the RAG, you're learning air-to-surface attacks and air-to-air attacks and intercepts, and it's less kind of flight training and more tactics training.
Okay.
So the FRS has both pilot and WIZO instructors.
So you're learning all these mission tasks when you're learning the aircraft for the first time, and you're obviously a multi-role fighter pilot. I mean, it's not like the F-14 was air-to-air or intercept missions, and the A6 was attack. I mean, you're doing all these same things that they used to both do. That's a lot of mission sets. I mean, that's a lot of stuff to take current on all the time.
It is. Yeah. So the RAG and FRS, you kind of learn pieces of everything. You learn just like flight training, you learn the fundamentals. So, you kind of learn how to set up the jet for air to surface and how to set up for a dumb bomb or a guided bomb or a laser bomb or a GPS bomb. And then you learn bits and pieces of the air-to-air stuff. First learn how to use the radar, because you come to the F-18 and, the radar is a foreign object to you. You've never touched one for your whole 2.5 years of flight training. Now you got to kind of learn to, all right, now I got to not only fly the plane, I need to worry about the radar and set this thing up, and how do I intercept a guy? And so it's a lot of that. But it starts off basic, and by the end of the RAG's about a year, by the end of the FRS year, you feel pretty confident enough, I guess, to go out to the fleet and then sharpen the skills.
So you go out to the boat during the RAG and you get boat qualled.
Correct.
You get your wings in a ceremony, and then what happens?
After that, you go into the FRS. So yes, you've gotten your wings prior to go to the F-18. Okay. Once you finish at the boat in the F-18, then we do what's called a patching. So you go to your squadron. So yeah, everyone meets at the O Club, and everyone finds out where you're going, and it's pretty good. It's pretty cool.
So you got guys from different squadrons waiting for you, like, oh, he's ours.
Exactly.
Almost like a frat type thing. Oh,
they all know, and you have no idea until you show up and
that's brutal.
Find out who gets you up.
Oh gosh, I hope they haze each other. Still, I don't think it's that hazing.
That's pretty gentle. I don't know what they do now. It's been a while since I've been in the fleet.
All right, so you get to the unit, and do you have, for folks watching who don't really understand what naval aviators do? I mean, are you like training to get mission qualified? I guess during workups, that's your only job, or are you still also doing collateral duties during that period?
Both. So you have a ground job. Typically, for a new guy, they kind of let you be for a little bit, right? You're going to be something, either a non-important job or just be a squadron pilot, until you can kind of learn to be an effective member of the squadron. But as far as training, it all depends on what squadron you go to. So you could join a squadron that just came off deployment and they've got a year until they're going back. So you got plenty of time to kind of get up to speed, or you could go to a squadron that's on deployment, and you may finish the RAG one day, and that next week you're flying out to who knows where to meet the ship and join a squadron underway. And that learning curve is real steep, because now you got to learn to fly around the boat, and you got to learn all your new tactics, and it can be a bit overwhelming, but everyone seems to handle it just fine.
How did it work out for you? Did you go straight to a boat, or did you have some time?
I joined a squadron that had just come off deployment a couple months prior. So I actually joined, I think, a great time because the squadron was kind of, slowing down a little bit. And then right as I got there, they started kind of picking back up. So I had plenty of time to train. And then I was there for about 6 months to a year. And then we started workups. And then we went on deployment after I'd been in squadron for about 18 months. So I was pretty confident and was able to kind of, learn some of the basic skills and then run through that year-long deployment process and gain some even more good experience.
Awesome. And how long are deployments in the Navy? I know, but folks may not know.
They change. They're labeled, they typically are 6 to 8 months, but that is pending no wars or no aggressions. And, it seems as soon as you get out on your boat, something happens and we're going to get extended or we're coming back early. So it's a little bit fluid, but I would say 7 to 8 months is probably the norm.
Okay. And a lot of guys and gals may be surprised to learn that you're not always flying off the boat, that you have shore duty as well. Can you talk a little bit about that as far as career for pilots, the mix of what you have to do?
Sure thing. So you kind of rotate between sea duties and shore duties. So obviously your first squadron is going to be a seagoing squadron. For F-18s at least. The Growlers, the E-18s have some expeditionary squadrons, which means they don't go on the boat. So they kind of would get out to different airfields around the world. But at least for F-18s, the stuff I know is, you'll do a shore tour. It's typically about 3.5 years or so. And then from there, you go to sorry, I may have said it wrong, but that's a sea tour. You do that for about 3.5 years, and then you go to your shore tour. And that could be going back to the FRS as an instructor or going to be a intermediate advanced instructor like T-45s like I did, or you could be a Top Gun instructor or go to Top Gun. So that's kind of your window to do that. And then after that, you rotate back into a sea tour. So you go back to be a department head, which is kind of like a middle manager for lack of a better term. So you're still flying, you just have a little bit more responsibility of actually running the squadron. And then you kind of rotate back and forth.
Now, I saw a special about that recently, and it looked like a crap ton of studying. I mean, it looked like a lot of academics. It's not like, playing volleyball and flying through the sky. There's a lot of academic stuff to this.
It's intense. That is the one thing about going through the course, you get very good at flying the F-18. And because of all that studying, and they fly a lot and they debrief a lot and they get pretty in depth on that training. It's from the guys I've talked to, it's some of the best flying they've done. It's supposed to be great.
Okay, but I wonder how many guys in the naval aviation community watch Top Gun, maybe, 300 times like me or something like that, and actually made it through like you, and then they get in there and they're like, wait a second, this is like a lot of academic stuff, man. Where's the volleyball at, man?
That's right. Yeah, it's a lot of studying. It's a lot of work.
It is. Okay. So now you're in your career, you're certainly feeling your stride, and you get the wild idea that you're going to apply to the Blue Angels.
Yep.
Right? Where were you at in your career when you made that choice?
So I was leaving my sea tour. So I was in Virginia Beach, and I knew I was going to be an instructor in Kingsville. And so I left in January, which is kind of when the message comes out. So I'd been looking at it and, thought it'd be A, cool idea, and B, would hopefully get me out of Kingsville, Texas a little bit sooner, but never really thought it'd be a reality. So moved down to Texas, been there for about 3 or 4 months, told the commanding officer there I plan to apply. I knew a couple of guys who were also applying, so we're like, hey, might as well go check it out, see how we like it. Tried that first year, did not make it my first year, and then decided to give it a try the second year, and was lucky enough to get picked up on the second try in 2018. So it was.
You must have been like blown away.
I was shocked. Yeah, I was like I said, it's never anything I ever thought would happen. Was never on my bingo card or never in my plan of this is what I'm going to do. It's just it's like one of those things. You just keep doing what you enjoy doing, keep working hard, and things kind of fell into place. So I wish I could tell you I had a magic route. Hey, do this, then do this, then do this. But with the Navy and I think with life, it's all about timing and a little bit of luck. But
it's just, I mean, Chewy, it's like a sacred thing. It's an American institution. There's a lot of people that look at Blue Angels as the pinnacle of American patriotism and exceptionalism. And you're putting that suit on, and it looks like they painted on you or something like that. So don't get fat. You can't, 'cause it's a physical job anyway. But what was that like to in that moment to realize, wow, there's going to be little kids like me looking up at you and saying, this is the closest thing to Clark Kent I'm going to get?
It was very surreal, and especially the first time you put the suit on, because they measure you up, and then because they measure you up in the finalist week. So before you even know you made it, they measure everyone just to make sure, so that if they have to get the suit made real quick, they have all the dimensions. And so you finally make it, and obviously it's crazy excitement. You show up in Pensacola, and it still never hits. And we kind of talk about in the Blue Angels all the time, imposter syndrome. Even the guys that are there, who have been there for months, like, I don't think I'm supposed to be here. Like, I can't cut. And then you watch the Blues fly, and you're already picked for the team. You're like, I can't do that, and I'm not going to be able to do that. So it's a little bit that goes on, but you just kind of have to trust the process. You were picked for a reason, but it is wild. And up until the last day I flew there was still times you'd walk in, and you'd see the Blue Angel crest on the hangar. You're like, oh, am I in the wrong place? Oh no, I'm supposed to. I'm going to the right spot. But yeah, it's weird. Very fun, very weird, and yeah, surreal is the best way to describe the feeling.
How did they tell you?
So they call you.
How about the
So
call?
yeah, everyone has a time slot when you're supposed to call in, and having not made it the first year, I kind of got some inclination the second time, because when you don't make it, hey, thanks for flying, we appreciate it. Here's we'd love to see you again. Thanks for trying. But the second time they call you when we did make it, they seemed a little bit more relaxed, a little bit more joking in there. So I was like, okay, this seems to feel good. And then everyone's there in the room and just gives you a big old welcome.
Were you married at the time?
I was not.
You're not married.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
You were single. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
I was fully single at the time, and then met my fiance while I was on the team.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, you give the Blue Angels all the credit they're
That's
due.
right.
Absolutely.
They sure did. It worked
Now
out.
on the team, you're it's incredibly demanding profession to begin with, but you're representing the Navy, and I'm sure the precision flying and everything else just takes its toll. Are you doing collateral duties as well in the squadron, or does the squadron take up the load for you guys?
You do for a little bit. So we do have a lot of civilian personnel and a lot of ground officers that handle a lot of it. So like, in a traditional squadron, a pilot may be in charge of maintenance, whereas in the Blue Angels, we have a traditional maintenance officer who does that. We have administrative officers, all that kind of stuff, public affairs officers. So the pilots are hands off that job. But the pilots do have a little bit of collateral duty depending on what your position is. So you'd have a NATOPS officer who's in charge of making sure the NATOPS jackets, which is our kind of governing body, make sure you have all the qualifications, all your paperwork is good, your flight physical is filed, all that kind of stuff. So it's not a huge demand, but there's a little bit. I would say the biggest one, typically five is the operations officer. So that comes with a little bit more, planning and foresight and range space scheduling, that kind of stuff, and planning out when the team's going to go to this show site, where they're going to travel to next. But largely your job is to show up, fly the demo, and be the best pilot you can be.
Okay. But as an officer, though, that's pretty all-encompassing. Mm-hmm. That brings me to my next question is, it's not just you guys, it's not the seven of you. There's a whole team. How do those sailors, how are they selected to basically be a part of the team as well and back you guys up?
So they're selected in a similar manner that we are. A message goes out every year. People apply, and they kind of do interviews. They come by. The applicants will come by and see the squadron, see how we operate, just like the pilots do, or the officers go on shows to see how the team works. And then I think they actually just announced the maintenance team for next year. But around April, May, they select the next year's team, and you show up and you get to work. So the maintenance guys or the enlisted guys are on a 3-year tour. So they rotate about a third of the squadron out, or a third of the enlisted personnel every year. So it's a constant turnover.
And the more elite units in the Army, it's like a community, 1/60th and such and so forth. And I have had friends who are over there, and they say, it's more like a family, because like you have a problem with your kid's sick, the doctor's going to come over. Are the angels like that? Is it more of like a tight knit thing where, you're kind of a self-contained unit because you're always on the road,
Mm-hmm. Very much so. Yeah. We're always traveling together. So, we're with each other about 300 days out of the year between El Centro and training and traveling. So we get very close to not only the officers, get close as a group, but the officers and the enlisted personnel get very close. It's also one of the only places in the Navy I've ever done it where you keep your same crew chief. so on the pilot side. So I had the same two crew
Wow.
chiefs, and they always get the plane ready for me. They're always there on the ladder to strap you in and make sure you're good. So it's a very, very tight knit community and family aspect to it. That's
I
why I
did
have,
not know that. I was a
yeah.
Mustang basically in the
Oh
Army.
yeah.
And so, having been a crew chief, I had 9226420. And
Hmm.
I remember that aircraft, and that thing smelled good. It looked good. I wanted the pilots to fly my air. So that's cool that the Blue
Hmm.
Angels let those crew chiefs, they own those planes. Those are their planes.
Hmm.
Absolutely. That's
So the
cool.
5 crew chiefs were always on the 5 jet. So that they get it ready, and yeah, you learn those planes very well. You learn the fast rollers, the slow rollers, the ones that smell different. Yeah, all the above.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you get to, I don't know, you land someplace, you get ready for a show. Tell me what that time period is like for you when you hit the ground, based upon your last year.
Mhm. It's fast and furious. So I always kind of tell people that the average Blue Angel week is pretty crazy. So since you asked about landing, we'll start there. But Thursday, Thursday we'll wake up. Depending on how far the show is, we'll leave to get there at 10 a.m. local time for that show. That's kind of always our goal. So you wake up, fly there, land. You usually have about 10, 15 minutes to do some media, meet with the local news agency or radio host there for a couple minutes, run in, debrief the flight there real quick, and then get ready for what we call circle flights. So first, the dime will go out 1 through 4, and they do their checkpoint flights, and they just kind of fly around the new area, pick out checkpoints for our maneuvers, because we always kind of like to say, the cool thing about the Blue Angels, the show doesn't change, just the air or the ground underneath it. So we kind of try and keep the show the exact same. So we got to pick out, new checkpoints to where to turn or flow into a certain maneuver. And so we have about an hour for each person to do that. 1 through 4 goes, and then 5 and 6 go. And then we'll all land, debrief that real quick, kind of as elements, and then get ready to go right back up for a practice. So typically practice around 2-ish is the kind of the average show time. Do that practice, and then debrief the practice. So Thursday's a very busy day because it's usually 3 flights to kind of squeeze in there. And then, get some rest Friday, wake up, do another practice. Saturday, Sunday, do your show. Sunday, fly home. Monday's your day off. And then Tuesday, Wednesday, you practice back home. So it's a lot of flying, very fast pace, and it's quick.
You
So
get one day off a week,
1 day off a week.
and you do that for 2 years.
2 to 3 years, yeah, depending on your position. So most pilots are 2. The narrator will do 3 years because it typically goes 765. That's the only 3-year tour for a F-18 guy. The C-130 guys do 3 years as well.
Oh.
Yeah.
You also do orientation flights with folks as well? In the
7
2
does. Yep. Yeah,
7
because
does?
when
Okay.
when 7 shows up, 7 will typically show up to a show site the day before. So he'll show up Wednesday, and he's in charge of getting the air show ready, doing the KI media, key influencer media rides, kind of the VIP flights, and then making sure all the maintenance equipment's there, make sure the hotels are good. We have rental cars, where to go. Hey, when you guys get off here, we're going to brief in this room. Here's our room. Kind of the logistics guy. He's kind of the OIC, the officer in charge for the weekend.
Okay. Now
And
here's a fun question for you, Chewy.
yeah.
Original 1986 Top Gun. I got to meet
Mhm.
Pete Pettigrew and hang out
Okay.
with him.
Yeah.
And of course, he was, there during the filming. And he gave me his opinions. But what was your favorite moment in the original movie?
Ooh. Favorite movie,
I'm
favorite
so
moment
good.
of the original. I guess you got to go with kind of the opening scene and keeping up foreign relations.
Oh my
The
goodness, great. Yeah.
inverted Tomcat over the MiG or the F5. That's a
That
good one.
whole lead in, that's big turbo fans, those big Pratt and Whitneys, all that smoke
Yeah.
coming out, man. Okay. How about the new movies? The new one.
Let's see. Man, watching Maverick or Tom Cruise kind of show the young guys how to do it and rip into that into the canyon and do it for the first time. That's a pretty cool scene. Yeah, that super low level, kind of about 10 feet, and then pissing straight up. That's a good one.
Okay, now how realistic was it in your mind? I know
Uh,
I get the plot, I get the Sid Field 3X structure. I'm
mhm.
talking about the flying.
I always tell people I think it's as realistic as they can make it and still make it a Hollywood movie, right? So it's based in reality. It's not necessarily lives in reality, but the concepts are right. And I think for the most part, I like what they did with the airborne scenes. I think the shots of an actual plane flying around pretty well mimic, what we do. Maybe not flying under bridges between mountains at 50 feet, but the rest of it, I think they did a great job. I enjoyed watching it. So
Okay.
yeah.
All right. Now let me ask you a couple last questions here, maybe 2 or 3, just more geared towards the folks that are watching. Because I think it's important to know that your line to the Blue Angels was not a straight line. I mean, I didn't know that you weren't picked up the first time. So, and I guess that would be a shock to some people. If you could go back to your naval aviation career, would you change anything? And if so, what?
I don't think so. At the time, disappointment is always everywhere, right? You always think you got the wrong end of the deal or something's bad or everything could always be better. But as I look back, I know I had a great time in the Navy. I enjoyed my fleet squadron very much. Probably the thing I enjoyed the least was, or when I was sent to Kingsville to be a flight instructor, that was not my first choice, but it led to me being able to rush the Blues and join the Blue Angels. So it's hard for me to look bad on that as well, because it kind of taught me a lot and put me in a spot where I could do that. So fortunately, I don't know if it's a good answer or bad answer. I wouldn't change anything, but I would kind of pivot to say kind of embrace the negatives when you see them and try and find a way to make it a positive or learn something from it or use it as motivation to change something. Like, hey, I don't like where I am. I'm going to work even harder to kind of get out of it or go somewhere else.
Okay. That's great. Yeah. Okay. And lastly, you're looking right now, just pretend you're talking to a young 15, 16-year-old teenager, and they're asking you, I want to be a Blue Angel. I want to be a naval aviator. Give them some advice right now. Tell them what they got to do to follow in your footsteps.
It's going to sound very cliche, but the answer is you can do it. And the reason I know that is because I was you. I was a 15-year-old, 16-year-old who, looked at the Blue Angel as superstars and impossible to achieve. And I somehow found myself there. So I always kind of use a quote. It's not really a quote, but it's a book I read called Grit, which, sorry if any listeners out there love the book. I did not enjoy the book very much. It's very, very wordy and kind of philosophical, but there is a great part in there where she talks about Angela Ducksworth is the author. And I'm going to butcher the quote, but it's talent times effort equals skill, skill times effort equals success, something along those lines. And basically the crux of that is effort far outweighs talent or natural ability. Something I've noticed in my time in, high school baseball, college, studying, Navy, everything. Whoever has the drive to work the hardest and, reach that goal will make the goal. It's not always the person you see, you're going to join up day one, be like, oh, that kid's the fastest, he's the strongest, they're going to win. No, they may if they try hard, but whoever puts in the most effort is 9 times out of 10 can be the one who ends up in the top spot.
Man, that's fantastic. Chewy, thank you so much for coming on here. Again, if you haven't seen the documentary, The Blue Angels, you got to see it. It's one of my absolute favorite films out there because it's so realistic. It's not like it's not a reality show. Okay. This is people along for the ride watching what they do. So there's no pretentious moments in it all. It's great. The flying's great. The cinematography is great. If you're thinking about being a pilot or a naval aviator or anything like that, I think it's a great quote. You can absolutely do it, but it's all about effort. As we live in the greatest country in the world where you can reinvent yourself as many times as you want to. So certainly believe in yourself. Any other words of wisdom before we leave?
No, I'm excited you guys are here. Thanks for having me on it. Yeah.
That's
hopefully
it.
it helps someone.
Off. I appreciate it.
Yeah,
Chewy,
absolutely.
thanks so much for coming on the show. Listen, make sure you like and subscribe. Check us out. We'll have a lot of more exciting guests. Maybe not this exciting, but they'll definitely be good. And we appreciate it. And if you have any questions or comments, make dropping down the bottom, and we'll try to answer them as best we can. But again, thanks for tuning in for Make the Donuts. And Chewy, appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.